Verse 8, I think, is when I watched this couple on this video, I immediately thought of this verse, Isaiah 32, verse 8. But a generous man devises generous things, and by generosity he shall stand. A generous man devises generous things. When you watch the video, did you see a couple devising a generous thing? I leaned over to Micah and I said, I mean, if you think about the video, now I've had the opportunity to watch it 3 times. I watched it the 3rd time, and first of all, that couple is having a Christmas sale, which tells us what? They probably had needs of their own. They had needs of their own. So they're out there, and in the midst of that, Micah said they still had a box of quality things that they were free, that they were given. They were still being generous, and they had needs of their own. But one of my favorite parts is when the gentleman is there. Look, the wife is rewrapping the presents in a very sneaky, strategic way. And he's there looking through the little blinds across, and he sees the lights go out. And can you see him sneaking through the lawn and across the street and sneaking in? I mean, they're lucky they didn't get arrested. To me, that they are the epitome of this verse. A generous man devises generous things. A generous man devises generous things. When I think about this verse and I think about all that you have done, first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who has given to the Christmas Giving Project. And I know you're going to hear a lot more about it in just a few moments when your pastor is done yakking up here. And but there's so many of you gave so generously, and I know that many of you had to devise generous things. You had to do things. You had to find creative ways to be generous. And I want to thank you. And on Christmas morning, there's going to be children on Tuesday night when many of you are going to go do a great big Christmas meal for children in the shelter and other community projects. And you go and you do that meal, and those children open those gifts. They're going to be a lot like these children, like, well, what just happened? And they're not going to say things like, oh, that was the Covingtons. Oh, yeah, no, they're not going to say, oh, that was the Carpenters or the Kitchens or the Beatties or the Aubreys. No. They're going to say, I can't explain it, but somebody must really love us. And it's because of our generosity. And I know that for many, many people here, it was not without creativity, but devising a plot. You had a plot to be generous. And the second thing I want you to notice there in that verse, it says, and by generosity he shall stand. How do you stand? People say, Pastor, in the midst of the challenges that we're facing, how can I just ensure the future of my family? I mean, honestly, we're having a hard time paying our mortgage, and we're having a hard time. We're literally, I've had multiple families say this to me over the last few months. We're literally one paycheck. I can feel it as a man. We're only one paycheck away from not being able to pay the rent. We're behind on the rent, and they're allowing us. But I feel like I'm one. How do you ensure your family standing? What does it say? And by generosity he shall stand. And by generosity. How do you ensure? I believe one of the ways that you ensure that your family will stand is by you coming up alongside of other people and you acting like you're God. I believe one of the ways that you and your family will stand in difficult season is by coming up alongside of people in need and devising a generous plan. What does it mean to devise a generous plan? It means it may not be easy. It may not be obvious, but you have it in your heart. I'm going to do this. I'm going to find a way. I believe that when you come alongside someone in need and devise a generous plan, you are never more like God than in that moment. I don't believe you're ever any more like your God than when you come up alongside someone in need and devise a generous plan. You say, well, Pastor, I mean, there's a lot of ways you could be like God. Well, you know what? From the very beginning of mankind, we were in need. From the very beginning of mankind, we found ourselves in a difficult place. And God devised a generous plan towards us. It was a very elaborate plan. It was not an easy plan. It wasn't something that just, well, I'll just throw something together. I'll go buy them a gift card kind of plan. It was a generous plan. It was a devised plan. Someone said to me between services, Pastor, you don't like gift cards? I said, no, I like gift cards as long as it's part of a plan that has that person in mind. You know they love a certain restaurant, then by all means, get a gift card for that restaurant. But is it a real generous plan? Because when you give me a bag of onions for Christmas, yeah, you're thinking, right? Okay. But God devised a generous plan. He came alongside us and He saved us. You say, God, what? Or you say, Pastor, what was that plan that God did? It's called Christmas. God provided salvation for us at that first Christmas. Yesterday, someone said to me, well, but Pastor, we don't even know if December 25th is the real Christmas. I said to them, they said, can you tell me from the Bible? I said, I'll give you a real deep theological answer here. Who cares? I said, we have a 1 in 365 chance of getting it right. I said, all we know is God provided a generous plan, a gift exchange for you and for me. And who cares? Christmas could be in August, and I would be still just as excited about it. Because He instituted it. Now, you might say, oh, you know, Scrooge does that. Oh, it's commercialized, and it's all this stuff. How many of you know that video we just watched had nothing to do with the commercialization of Christmas? So you just forget about what the world does at Christmas, and let's be like our God. Let's be like our God, and let's devise generous plans for people. I want to read you just a little bit of the generous plan that our God devised towards us. Can I have the worship team come up, please? Luke chapter 2, verse 7. And she brought forth her firstborn son and wrapped him. There we go. There's the Christmas wrapping right there. Wrapped him. Okay, all right. Theologically sound with these gifts up here wrapped. Wrapped him in swaddling clothes, which interpretation is flashy paper, and laid him in a manger because there was no room for them in the inn. There were in the same country shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks by night. And behold, the angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were greatly afraid. And the angel of the Lord said, do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. I just want to stop here just for a moment. Here we are at the greatest event in the history of the world, and people are afraid. Yeah. And here we are on the eve of Christmas here, just days before Christmas. And you know, there's a lot of people who are afraid. They're afraid of what the future holds. They're afraid of what is transpiring. They're afraid. And I believe that the angel of God is here today, just like them, to say, you know, don't be afraid. I believe God's going to come up alongside of you and help you in your moments of need. But then he says, come up alongside of others. Did you get the picture today? He's coming up alongside you in your moment of need. He's saying, don't be afraid. And then He's sending you up alongside of others. And what are you going to say to them? Don't be afraid. And devise a generous plan. For there is born this day in the city of David a Savior who is Christ the Lord. And this will be a sign to you. You will find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. Many people do not see that God is at work in their lives. And really today, as we move forward in this service, I want you to understand that we serve a good God who loves you. He's been planning, strategizing. He's been working on your behalf. And your pastor is here to say, that's how it works. He's bringing people up alongside you and encouraging you. One of the things that He did was He sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to die on a cross. And if you're here today and you look at your life and you say, Pastor, I don't know how a God like you're talking about, really? The things that I've done in my life? I mean, you don't know what I've done. I've done some things that I'm not proud of. I've done some things that I can't really talk about. But you know what? God knows those things. And he devised a plan. He devised an elaborate plan so that you could be free from that sin. Many of us, we devise elaborate plans to cover up our sin. And he comes along with a plan, devises a plan for you to be, not cover up your sin, to be forgiven of the sin. And all he asks is that we accept his plan. And what was that plan? That he would come, he would be born in a manger, he would live a perfect life, he would die on a cross, an exchange would take place. We're here in this season where exchange gifts. We're now at a place in the service where a great exchange can take place. Your failures, your wrongdoings, your mistakes, your shortcomings can be exchanged for his forgiveness. How many of you know that's a great exchange?